Jake Morrison walked into his physics class at MIT like any other Tuesday morning. The 19-year-old student carried his worn backpack and a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. Professor Williams was already at the blackboard writing complex equations that made most students groan in frustration. "Can anyone solve this equation for quantum energy displacement?" Professor Williams asked the class of 30 students. Hands remained down. Students shifted in their seats and avoided eye contact. Jake looked around the room and saw the familiar expressions of confusion and panic. He had seen these same faces for months now. His classmates were smart, but they struggled with concepts that seemed simple to him. Jake raised his hand slowly. "The answer is 4.7 times 10 to the 15th joules per second, Professor." Professor Williams stopped writing. He turned around and stared at Jake with surprise. That's correct. How did you calculate that so quickly?" "I just worked through the variables in my head," Jake said with a small shrug. "The quantum field interactions follow a predictable pattern once you account for dimensional variance." The other students turned to look at Jake. Some rolled their eyes, others whispered to each other. Jake had gotten used to these reactions. He was the student who always had the right answer, who made everything look easy, who published research papers that even graduate students found difficult to understand. After class, Jake packed his books and headed toward the exit. His roommate Danny Walsh caught up with him in the hallway. "Dude, you're making the rest of us look bad again," Danny said with a grin. "Some of us actually have to study for these classes." Jake smiled back. "Sorry. I'll try to keep my mouth shut next time." "No way, keep showing off. Maybe it'll inspire me to actually open a textbook." Danny laughed and headed toward his next class. Jake walked across campus alone. Students passed by him without much notice. To them, he was just another smart kid, at a school full of smart kids. They had no idea what he really did when the sun went down. That evening, Jake waited until Danny left for his part-time job at the campus bookstore. The dormitory hallway grew quiet as students settled into their evening routines. Jake checked his watch. It was time to get to work. He grabbed a small device from his desk drawer. The device looked like a TV remote, but it served a very different purpose. Jake pointed it at the walls of his room and pressed a button. The device scanned for electronic signals, searching for anything that didn't belong. The screen showed 3 small red dots. Someone had placed listening devices in his room. Jake's heart rate increased, but he forced himself to stay calm. He had expected this day would come eventually. Jake put the device away and acted normal for the next hour. He did homework, listened to music, and made a phone call to his parents back home in Ohio. Anyone watching would see a typical college student having a typical evening. At midnight, Jake made his move. He quietly opened his window and climbed out onto the fire escape. The metal stairs creaked softly as he made his way down to the basement level of the building. He had discovered the abandoned storage room 3 months ago and had been using it as his secret laboratory ever since. Jake unlocked the heavy door with a key he had copied from maintenance. Inside the room, plastic sheets covered strange machines and devices. Cables ran across the floor, connecting equipment that hummed with electrical energy. This was where Jake did his real work. He pulled the sheets away from his main project. The device sat on a metal table and looked like something from a science fiction movie. Curved metal pieces formed a ring about 3 feet wide. Crystals embedded in the metal glowed with a soft blue light. This was Jake's greatest achievement, built from technology that shouldn't exist on Earth. 6 months ago, Jake had been hiking in Nevada during spring break. He had wandered off the main trail and discovered something incredible. A piece of metal, about the size of a basketball, was buried in the sand near some rocks. The metal was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It was lighter than aluminum but stronger than steel. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. Jake had taken the metal back to his room and spent weeks studying it. The symbols weren't from any human language. The metal itself seemed to generate small amounts of energy without any power source. After months of careful analysis, Jake realized what he had found. This was technology from somewhere else, someone else. The breakthrough came when Jake figured out how to activate the metal's energy generation properties. By arranging pieces in specific patterns and applying electromagnetic fields, He could create effects that defied known physics. The ring device on his table was proof of what human engineering could accomplish when combined with alien knowledge. Jake turned on the bow device and watched the crystals glow brighter. The air in the center of the ring began to shimmer like heat waves on hot pavement. Jake had built Earth's first working energy shield generator. The device could stop bullets, deflect laser beams, and protect against electromagnetic pulses. It was technology that could change warfare forever, but Jake knew he couldn't reveal his discovery. Not yet. The metal fragment he had found was clearly part of something larger. If aliens had crashed on Earth, that meant they were coming back. Humanity needed time to prepare, and that meant keeping the technology secret until the right moment. Jake heard footsteps in the hallway above. He quickly shut down the device and covered it with plastic sheets. Someone was walking around the building at 1 a.m, and that wasn't normal. Jake turned off the lights and listened carefully. The footsteps stopped directly above his laboratory. Jake held his breath and waited. After several minutes, the footsteps moved away. Jake waited another hour before he dared to leave the room. When he climbed back into his dormitory room, Jake found something that made his blood run cold. Someone had been in his room while he was gone. His desk drawers had been searched. His computer had been moved slightly. Books on his shelf were in the wrong order. Jake sat on his bed and thought about what this meant. The listening devices in his room weren't random. Someone was specifically watching him. Someone who had the resources to break into secure buildings and plant sophisticated surveillance equipment. Jake walked to his window and looked out at the campus. Somewhere out there, people were watching him right now. They knew he was special, but they didn't know why. They had seen his published papers, his patents, his impossible test scores. They knew he was capable of things that other 19-year-olds couldn't do. What they didn't know was that Jake was racing against time to save the human race. The alien technology he had found was just the beginning. The real test would come when Earth's visitors returned to reclaim what they had lost. Jake made a decision that night. He couldn't hide forever. If people were already watching him, then he needed to be more careful about who those people were. Some might want to help him. Others might want to stop him. Either way, Jake Morrison was no longer just a college student with a secret. He was now a target, and the game had officially begun. Agent Lisa Carter sat in her car outside the MIT campus watching students walk to their morning classes. She had been assigned to watch Jake Morrison for 3 weeks now, and every day brought new questions. The young man's research papers read like science fiction, but the math was perfect. Her team of experts couldn't find a single error in his work. Lisa took a sip of her coffee and checked her surveillance equipment. The listening devices in Jake's room had picked up normal college student activities for the past few days. Homework, phone calls home, conversations with his roommate about girls and video games, nothing suspicious. But Lisa knew Jake was hiding something big. His latest research paper described methods for faster-than-light communication. The ideas should have been impossible, but Jake's mathematical proofs were flawless. The FBI's science team had spent weeks trying to find mistakes in his calculations. They found nothing wrong. Lisa's phone buzzed with a text message from her partner, Agent Rick Stone. Energy readings from the target's building spiked again last night. Whatever he's doing, it's getting stronger. Lisa frowned and typed back. Any idea what kind of equipment could cause those readings? Our tech guys say it looks like someone is experimenting with exotic matter. Maybe antimatter research. Way beyond college-level stuff. Lisa put her phone away and continued watching the campus. Jake Morrison was either the smartest 19-year-old in human history, or he was working with technology that didn't belong to any known government or corporation. Either possibility made him dangerous. Across campus, Jake sat in his chemistry class, but his mind was elsewhere. He had spent most of the night working in his secret laboratory, making progress on his most important project yet. The alien metal. Fragments had revealed something terrifying about their origin. Jake had run dozens of tests on the metal using equipment he had built himself. The atomic structure was unlike anything found on Earth. More importantly, the metal contained microscopic data storage devices. When Jake finally figured out how to read the data, He discovered the truth about why the aliens had come to Earth. The metal fragments were part of a scout ship. The aliens had been studying Earth for years, gathering information about human technology, population, and military capabilities. The data Jake found showed detailed maps of major cities, military bases, and research facilities around the world. But the most frightening discovery was a timeline. The scout ship had been preparing for something much larger. A full invasion fleet was already traveling toward Earth. Based on the data Jake found, humanity had maybe 5 years before the aliens arrived in force. Jake knew he couldn't fight an entire alien invasion by himself, but he also couldn't trust the government with this information. If the wrong people learned about the alien technology, they might try to use it for their own purposes instead of defending Earth. So Jake had made a plan. He would develop defensive technologies using the alien knowledge, then find a way to share those technologies with the right people when the time came. The energy shield generator was just the beginning. After his chemistry class, Jake walked to the campus library. He needed to research fusion reactor designs that could power larger versions of his shield technology. As he walked between the library stacks, Jake noticed something strange. The same man in a gray suit had been in the background wherever Jake went for the past 3 days. Jake pretended to look for books while watching the man from the corner of his eye. The man was trying to act casual, but he was clearly following Jake. He had the look of someone who worked for the government. Clean haircut, conservative clothes, and the kind of physical fitness that came from regular training. Jake selected a few physics textbooks and found a quiet table in the back of the library. As he sat down, he noticed another person watching him. This time it was a woman with short brown hair sitting 2 tables away with a laptop computer. She was trying to look like a graduate student, but Jake could tell she was too old and too alert. Jake realized he was being watched by at least 2 different people, maybe more. He needed to be very careful about his next moves. That evening, Jake waited for Danny to leave for work before checking his room for new surveillance devices. He found 2 additional listening devices and what looked like a tiny camera, hidden in his desk lamp. Someone was definitely escalating their interest in his activities. Jake grabbed his backpack and left the dormitory through a different exit than usual. He took a complicated route across campus, using reflections in eye windows to watch for followers. After 30 minutes of careful movement, Jake was confident he had lost anyone who might be tracking him. He made his way to his secret laboratory and began working on his next project. The energy shield generator was impressive, but Jake knew he needed weapons as well as defenses. The alien data had shown him principles for creating directed energy weapons that could penetrate almost any known armor. As Jake worked, he thought about the Watchers who had been following him. They were probably government agents, but which agency? CIA? NSA? Maybe some secret organization he had never heard of. Jake hoped they were the good guys, but he couldn't take that chance. Jake's computer chimed with a message from an encrypted email account he had set up months ago. Someone had been trying to contact him through channels that very few people knew about. Jake opened the message and felt his heart skip a beat. "We know what you found in Nevada. We need to meet. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Central Park bench near the pond. Come alone." A friend. Jake stared at the message for several minutes. Someone else knew about the alien metal. Someone who had been watching him long enough to know about his hiking trip to Nevada. This could be a trap, but it could also be his first contact with someone who might be able to help. Jake deleted the message and continued working on his weapon prototype. He would decide tomorrow whether to meet this mysterious contact. Right, now he had more pressing concerns. The directed energy weapon was nearly complete. Jake had managed to focus the alien energy generation principles into a device about the size of a pistol. The weapon could fire concentrated energy beams that would punch through steel like paper. It was the kind of technology that could level the playing field between humans and an advanced alien invasion force. But as Jake put the finishing touches on his weapon, he heard something that made him freeze. Footsteps in the hallway above, directly over his laboratory. Multiple sets of footsteps moving with the kind of coordination that suggested military or law enforcement training. Jake quickly shut down his equipment and covered everything with plastic sheets. He grabbed his backpack and the energy weapon prototype, then moved toward the small window he had installed as an emergency exit. As Jake climbed through the window, he heard voices above. "Target is not in his room. Spread out and search the building." Jake ran across the campus in the darkness, his heart pounding with adrenaline. The hunters had found his trail, and the game was becoming much more dangerous. Tomorrow's meeting might be his only chance to find allies in a fight that was bigger than anything he could handle alone. Jake Morrison was no longer just being watched. Now he was being hunted. Jake spent the night in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Boston. He had found the building during one of his weekend exploration trips and had always thought it might make a good hiding place. Now he was grateful for his careful planning. The warehouse was cold and empty, but it had electricity from an old connection that still worked. Jake set up his laptop and energy weapon prototype on a dusty table. He needed to make contact with the mysterious person who had sent him the email. At exactly 3 p.m. the next day, Jake arrived at Central Park. He had taken 3 different buses and walked through 2 shopping malls to make sure no one was following him. The park was busy with afternoon visitors, which gave Jake good cover. Jake found the bench near the pond and sat down. He pretended to read a book while watching everyone around him. After 10 minutes, a woman with short brown hair approached the bench. Jake recognized her immediately. She was one of the people who had been watching him at the library. "Jake Morrison?" the woman asked quietly as she sat down next to him. Jake tensed and prepared to run. "Depends who's asking." The woman opened her purse and showed Jake an FBI badge. "Agent Lisa Carter. I'm the one who sent you the email." Jake stared at the badge, then at Agent Carter's face. "You're FBI. Why should I trust you?" "Because I'm not here to arrest you," Lisa said. "I'm here because I think you might be humanity's best hope for survival." Jake blinked in surprise. "What do you mean?" Lisa looked around to make sure no one was listening, then spoke in a low voice. "We know about the metal fragments you found in Nevada. We know about your energy experiments, and we know that you've been developing technology that shouldn't exist." Jake felt his heart racing. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Jake, listen to me carefully." Lisa turned to face him directly. "My team has been monitoring strange energy readings from your dormitory for weeks. Our scientists can't explain what kind of equipment could generate those readings. Whatever you're working on, it's beyond current human technology." Jake studied Lisa's face, looking for signs of deception. She seemed sincere, but Jake had learned not to trust anyone easily. "Even if what you're saying is true," Jake said carefully, "why would the FBI care about some college student's science projects?" Lisa reached into her purse again and pulled out a small device that looked similar to the alien metal fragments Jake had found. "Because you're not the only one who's found pieces of their technology." Jake's eyes widened. The device in Lisa's hand was definitely alien in origin, but it was different from the fragments he had discovered. This piece looked like part of a communication system. "Where did you get that?" Jake asked. "A farmer in Wyoming found it buried in his field 3 months ago. He called the local sheriff, who called the state police, who eventually called us." Lisa put the device away. "We've been finding pieces like this all over the country. Someone's technology crashed here and they left a lot of debris behind." Jake made a decision. If the FBI already knew about the alien technology, then maybe he could trust them with the bigger truth. "It wasn't just a crash," Jake said quietly. "It was a scout ship. They were gathering information about Earth." Lisa leaned closer. "Who was gathering information?" "The aliens who built this technology, and they're coming back." Jake pulled out his laptop and showed Lisa some of the data he had decoded from the metal fragments. "According to this information, Earth is being prepared for invasion. We have maybe 5 years before they arrive in force." Lisa stared at the data on Jake's screen. The information was complex, but she could understand enough to see that Jake was telling the truth about an alien threat. "Jake, I need you to come with me," Lisa said. There are people in the government who need to see this information. Jake shook his head. I can't trust the government with this. If the wrong people get control of alien technology, they'll use it for their own purposes instead of defending Earth. Then what do you suggest we do? Lisa asked. Jake closed his laptop and looked at Lisa seriously. I suggest we work together. You have resources and access that I don't have. I have knowledge about the alien technology that your scientists don't have. Maybe we can figure this out together. Lisa considered Jake's proposal. She knew that her superiors at the FBI would want to bring Jake in for questioning. But she also knew that forcing him to cooperate might make him stop sharing information. What kind of cooperation are you talking about? Lisa asked. Jake pulled a small device from his backpack. It was the energy weapon prototype he had been working on. I've been developing defensive technologies using principles I learned from the alien fragments. This weapon can fire energy beams that will penetrate almost any armor. Lisa stared at the device. It looked like something from a science fiction movie, but she had seen enough of Jake's work to know that it probably functioned exactly as he described. You built this yourself? Lisa asked. Using alien engineering principles, yes, but this is just the beginning. I've also developed shield generators, communication devices, and power sources that could revolutionize human technology. Jake put the weapon away. The problem is that I can't mass produce any of this equipment by myself. I need help from people with manufacturing resources and distribution networks. Lisa realized that Jake was offering her a partnership that could change the balance of power on Earth. If his technology really worked as advertised, then humanity might have a chance to defend itself against an alien invasion. I'll make you a deal, Lisa said. I'll help you develop and distribute your defensive technologies, but I need something in return. What do you need? Jake asked. I need you to work with a small team of government scientists and military advisors. People who can help you scale up production and integrate your technology with existing defense systems. Jake thought about Lisa's offer. He had been working alone for months, and he knew that he couldn't prepare Earth's defenses by himself. Maybe it was time to trust someone else with his secret. How do I know these government people won't try to take control of my research? Jake asked. Lisa smiled. Because I'll be there to make sure they don't. You have my word. Jake extended his hand to Lisa. Partners? Lisa shook his hand. Partners. As they sat on the park bench, Jake felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. He was no longer alone in his fight to prepare Earth for invasion, but he had also just trusted his life's work to someone he barely knew. There's something else you should know, Jake said. The alien technology I found suggests that they've been studying Earth for a long time. They know about our military capabilities, our population centers, and our technological limitations. When they come back, they'll be prepared for everything we can currently throw at them. Lisa nodded grimly. Then we better make sure we have some surprises ready for them. Jake and Lisa left the park together, but they were careful to exit separately and meet again at a location Lisa suggested. The partnership between a college student and an FBI agent was just beginning, but it might be humanity's best chance for survival. Agent Carter's investigation intensifies when Jake's latest research paper describes theoretical applications for faster-than-light communication. The paper reads like science fiction, but the mathematical proofs are flawless. Her team of experts cannot find a single error in his calculations, despite the fact that his conclusion should be impossible. Jake knows he's being watched, but he continues his work with increasing urgency. The alien technology fragments have revealed something terrifying. The crashed scout ship was part of an advanced reconnaissance mission. The full invasion fleet is already en route to Earth, and humanity has perhaps 5 years to prepare adequate defenses. Working in secret, Jake develops humanity's first functional energy shield generator, using principles derived from the alien hull fragments. The device can deflect projectiles traveling at significant fractions of light speed, but it requires an enormous amount of power. He begins work on a fusion reactor design that could provide the necessary energy output. Agent Carter's team intercepts unusual energy readings from Jake's dormitory building. The readings suggest someone is conducting experiments with exotic matter, possibly antimatter research. The FBI brass becomes convinced that Jake is either a foreign agent or has made contact with hostile extraterrestrial forces. The cat-and-mouse game escalates when Jake realizes that Agent Carter's team includes Dr. Helen Price, a theoretical physicist who worked on classified government projects. He recognizes her name from papers on exotic matter manipulation that were suddenly classified and pulled from academic journals 3 years ago. This tells him that the government already knows more about alien technology than they're admitting publicly. Jake makes his first direct contact with Agent Carter by leaving an encrypted message in her hotel room. The message contains mathematical proofs for technologies that could revolutionize human civilization, along with a single line: "We need to talk. Humanity's survival depends on it." Part 3. Unlikely Allies. The meeting between Jake and Agent Carter takes place in an abandoned warehouse outside Boston. Jake brings a small device that demonstrates impossible energy output, generating enough power to light the entire building from a device the size of a smartphone. Agent Carter realizes that Jake isn't just a genius student. He's someone who has access to technology that could change the world. Jake reveals the truth about the alien scout ship and the incoming invasion fleet. He shows Agent Carter the recovered fragments and explains how he's been working to develop defensive technologies. The revelation that extraterrestrial forces are already monitoring Earth sends shockwaves through the FBI's command structure. Agent Carter's superior, Director Roy Hamilton, initially dismisses Jake's claims as the delusions of a brilliant but unstable mind. However, when Jake demonstrates a working prototype of his energy shield technology by deflecting a high-velocity projectile, the government takes notice. The demonstration shows that Jake's devices can stop weapons that would easily penetrate existing military armor. The collaboration between Jake and the FBI becomes strained when government scientists attempt to confiscate his research. Jake refuses to hand over his work, knowing that military bureaucracy would slow development of crucial defensive technologies. He agrees to work with a small classified team led by Agent Carter, but only if he maintains control over the research direction. Jake's roommate Danny becomes suspicious when Jake disappears for days at a time. A chance encounter with Agent Carter reveals that Jake is involved in something far more serious than academic research. Danny demands to know the truth, forcing Jake to reveal the alien threat and his role in developing humanity's defenses. The part ends with Jake's laboratory being attacked by unknown forces. The attackers use advanced weapons that seem to be based on the same alien technology Jake has been studying. This suggests that Jake isn't the only person on Earth who has access to extraterrestrial technology, and not everyone with such access has humanity's best interests at heart. Part 4. The Final Gambit. The attack on Jake's laboratory reveals that a secret organization has been monitoring his work. Agent Carter's investigation uncovers evidence that certain government officials have been in contact with alien forces for years, trading human technology and intelligence for advanced alien weapons. This shadow conspiracy views Jake's independent research as a threat to their carefully negotiated arrangements with the extraterrestrial scouts. Jake realizes that the alien invasion isn't just a military conquest, it's a harvesting operation. The aliens need human intellectual resources to solve complex problems in their own civilization. The secret human collaborators believe they can secure privileged positions in the post-invasion world order by helping to identify and catalog humanity's most brilliant minds. Working with Agent Carter and a small team of loyal government scientists, Jake develops a plan to turn humanity's greatest weakness into its greatest strength. Unlike the hierarchical alien civilization, humans excel at independent thinking and creative problem-solving. Jake's plan involves distributing simplified versions of his defensive technologies to research institutions worldwide, creating a decentralized network of human innovation that the aliens cannot easily control or eliminate. The conspiracy attempts to stop Jake by framing him as a terrorist who has stolen classified technology. Agent Carter finds herself caught between her duty to the FBI and her conviction that Jake represents humanity's best hope for survival. She makes the difficult choice to go underground with Jake, officially becoming a fugitive while secretly working to expose the conspiracy. Jake's final breakthrough comes when he successfully creates a stable wormhole generator using principles Derived from the alien technology, the device doesn't just provide faster-than-light travel, it allows humanity to send messages backward through time within a limited range. This capability enables Jake to warn past versions of himself about the conspiracy and the alien invasion, creating a temporal advantage that the aliens never anticipated. The story concludes with Jake broadcasting his defensive technologies to every major university and research institution on Earth. Within weeks, human scientists worldwide begin developing improvements and variations on his designs. The aliens arrive to find not a helpless civilization ready for harvesting, but a species that has transformed their own advanced technology into something even more powerful through the application of human creativity and determination. The final scene shows Jake, no longer hiding his abilities, standing before the United Nations as humanity's representative in first contact negotiations. The aliens, impressed by humanity's rapid technological advancement and unified response to the crisis, propose a partnership rather than conquest. Jake's response embodies the HFY spirit. We're willing to share the universe with you, but we'll never again be anyone's prey. The story ends with Jake returning to MIT, but now as a professor rather than a student. His first lecture to a packed auditorium begins with the words, "Today we're going to discuss why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our refusal to accept that anything is impossible."